Viewers, welcome back this morning to the Tobago Updates morning show. We are chatting this morning with Mr. Barry Lovelace, who's the Marine Park Manager attached to the Department of Marine Resources and Fisheries. And this morning, our focus is on the Buccoo Reef Marine Park Guidelines, among other things. Barry, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Ria. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Always, always. Now, Barry, we are getting into the vacation period. It's Easter. We've got a lot of visitors coming to the island. In fact, a lot of locals who are relaxing with nowhere else to go would utilize our natural resources.
Yes.
So we're looking at the Buccoo Reef Marine Park, and there's some guidelines. Of course, we want to protect what we own at the end of the day.
Right.
So what should we be mindful of?
Well, the last time I was here, that was the carnival period, another peak season, and came on. I didn't get a chance. We ended up talking about so many things. I didn't get a chance to read the guidelines. So let me start off with that this morning. Let me start off with that this morning, right? Well, of course, as I would have said the last time, the fundamental law that protects that applies to the Buccoo Reef Marine Park is the Marine Areas Act, right? And that, I mean, it's an old act, 1970, right? But I just want to read an excerpt from it, right? Right, all users are required to have a permit to access the marine protected area pursuant of Regulation 3 of the Act's subsidiary legislation, which indicates, and this is the substantive part here, except with the permission, the written permission of the minister or the person duly authorized by him, right? And in our case, it would be the division responsible for marine resources, right? In Tobago, or that secretary, or that line, right? Right, authorized by him in writing to grant such permission, no person shall go in or alight upon a restricted area, right? Operate a boat or other vessel within the restricted area, or cause or allow a boat or other vessel to enter such an area. Part C, take or remove any fish or bird from the restricted area. Take or remove any mangrove from the restricted area, or dig, dredge, or otherwise interfere with any seabed of a restricted area. So those are what's there in law. Of course, it's an old law and would need updating and so on. And I even think right now, well, there are other laws that pertain to it, right? Pertain to that apply to the management of that sea space, right? And some are incidental. We even have the Fisheries Management Act that is now before the Joint Select Committee, and so that might even impact on this legislation and so on. But in terms of how we manage, right? And when I say we, I'm here talking about the Marine Area Unit, right? Which is a part of the Department of the Marine Resources and Fisheries, right? We are we have the remit to manage that space, right? That legal space is delineated by law, the boundaries, right? And so we try to cooperate with other law enforcement entities, such as the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we have the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, we have Maritime Services Division. All of those persons have a certain level of authority that can, help us and so coming up this Easter, that is indeed the case, where we'll be having joint patrols of the marine space, right?
Let me ask you something. As far as you are aware, anyone in breach of this law, of this act, what would be the outcome?
All right.
And you did mention here that this is a very old, very archaic law.
1970.
Yeah, that 1970s ain't that old, because you're implying
But let me it really needs updating, right? The penalties, I think the strongest penalty for breach of the law in particular that is enshrined in the law there is I think $1,000 fine. However, granted that you have to be authorized to be on the reef, right? We have that, there's that power now to restrict permission to operate on the reef. So there's that power as well, right? Then you have the police have their usual, authority, right? And the Coast Guard as well, right? So we'll be relying on those authorities as well to help enforce, order and safety on the reef.
Now, who should have that permit? Because we have reef tour operators as well. So who should be in possession of that permit?
Well, yes, any user of the reef, right? So it would apply to the tour boats, the reef tour operators, right? It will apply to water sport operators. If a fishing vessel, which is not supposed to really be on the reef, but if they wish to transit the reef for logistical purpose, right? There's a transit permit that you ought to get. Jet skis, again, those are not allowed on the reef within the protected area, but they are allowed to transit, right? That marked channels that it allow for, and so you need a transit permit again, right? But they're okay. That was in 2018 thereabout, right? The Executive Council would have passed Buccoo Reef Marine Park user policy, which stipulates even further than this law, right? What is allowed, what is not allowed, and even the permit system, right? How you go about accessing the permit system, what is required. The boat's supposed to be registered. It's supposed to be checked out by a maritime surveyor, right? In terms of determining what is the carrying capacity of the boat, right? And that carrying capacity is supposed to be marked clearly on the boat so that passengers can know. And of course, this is part of why we are trying to make the public aware, right? If you go to the reef, look out for that. Look, you're boarding a vessel, check out to see how much this boat is supposed to carry, right? And if it's going over that, you say something.
And that should be your responsibility as a patron.
Exactly. And so the public has a responsibility as well to make sure that things happen properly on the reef, that is protected, that we continue to enjoy it, all of us, and our upcoming generations, that they would be able to enjoy it as well.
Go ahead, you were about to say.
Well, and one thing I wanted to highlight, right? In terms, I know it's a challenge. The management of the park has been a challenge over the years.
We would assume.
Yes, it has been a challenge over the years. But I mean, I'm new there now, and try my best. But one thing I want to emphasize while I'm there is that if you were to look at it, anywhere you go and you see a successful marine park, one of the fundamental things that they have going is proper stakeholder engagement, right? That is a key to any successful management plan for a marine park.
And who are those stakeholders?
Right, well, there are many, right? Of course, the obvious ones are the boat operators and owners. You have the water sports folks, the jet skis and so on, who may want to use the area. You have the general users, the bathers and the visitors and so on. Then within the whole tourism sector, right, you have persons that would be interested there. Then you have, on the conservation side, you have the NGOs, of which there are several on the island. Protecting and interested in that, in preserving the biological character of that. You also have within government, right? Myself, the administrator, the secretaries, and so on. So there's a wide, the dive association, fishermen, because as you may know, the reef, the Bonaccord Lagoon that is within the protected area there, that serves as a major nursery for a lot of fish, right? Not only reef fish, but even commercial species that we enjoy often, right? So if that is impaired, right, it would affect the fisheries. So you have a host of stakeholders. And what we are seeking to do at this stage is to identify as wide as possible these stakeholders, right, within a sort of stakeholder inventory. And the proposal is for the revitalization of the Buccoo Reef Management Committee eventually. Now, in 2005, thereabouts, right, there was such a committee that was formed, and that was formed in anticipation of the EMA, they had proposed to declare that protected area as an environmentally sensitive area. And as such, in response to that, we would have formed what was called the Buccoo Reef Management Committee. And of course, it was made up of various stakeholders and so on, a small group, but, and well, for whatever reason, it disintegrated, as well as the passage of that environmentally sensitive law, right? It never came to fruition. And it's still there on the tables for discussion and for moving forward and so on.
And you're hoping to see that happen.
Right, and there's now a kind of revitalization of that discussion. And so too, we want to revitalize the Buccoo Reef Management Committee. So discussions are for that. Of course, dealing with people, well, I've learned in my environmental career that the hardest part of environmental management is people management. That's the most challenging part, but it has to be done if we are to succeed in in terms of protecting the area and having it operate as it ought to.
Now, and this is about education as well, how do you get not only Tobagonians, because when we are invested in our own, there's buy-in. I mean, we tend to appreciate what we have, but how do you get persons to understand the importance of protecting, the importance of putting the garbage in the bin and not on the sand, not allowing it to go to sea? How do we begin to change that? It seems as though when we are at home in Trinidad and Tobago, we do what we want, but we visit other places. We know what to do. We follow the rules.
Well, maybe it is that outside is better at public awareness than we are. So when we watch the television and we watch the shows, and so we see a particular kind of behavior. But
we fall in line with.
Yeah, that we know when we go out there, we have to fall in line with. Right? So, but I mean, so it has a lot to do with public awareness and education, and even engagement at the schools and so on. Well, within the NGO sector, we try to do a lot. We try to do a lot of engagement with students, and so fashioning their minds in terms of changing the behaviors, right? So such that things like in terms of garbage disposal and so on, we become more conscious of. And so even this is part of the process, educating as to what are the do's and don'ts on the reef. Right?
Most definitely. And I like what you said there. It starts with education. It starts with the NGOs taking it up, having those school projects and those school drives. From preschool all the way up, maybe in the workplace as well, because we see some adults doing it, and we see children who would have been taught differently or taught better, saying, no, mommy, you really shouldn't put that there. Mommy, you can't throw. Daddy, you can't do. So the education.
Yes. And well, I'm not sure if it's premature to mention, right? But World Ocean Day is coming up in June 8th.
Not premature at all. I think we need to start. We need to continue the discussion.
But you must invite me back for that specifically, right? Because there's a lot to discuss there. But we really plan a suite of activities, public awareness activities in lead up to that event, that commemoration of World Ocean Day. And of that same week, I think, is World Environment Day, which is related.
Yes.
Right? So we are planning a lot of activities, right? And as I mentioned, the revitalization of the Buccoo Reef Management Committee is one such thing that we'd want to get at a certain point that we can come and report as to what is happening with that committee and where things are going in terms of our plans to, manage the area there.
Right.
And just one word on that, right? Because this, me being here is also an appeal to the policymakers, right? Because they also they are major stakeholders.
They have your ear, or right? You have their ear.
Right? And so at that macro level, the executive council level, I think there needs to be a serious discussion as it pertains to what is intended for the Buccoo Reef Marine Park. What is the real strategy that we will intend for that area, right? Because as you know, it's a flagship, you could say it's a flagship tourism product.
Yes,
right?
It
so is. The policymakers that are responsible for tourism needs to be in that discussion, but also there are serious conservation objectives that we have to meet as well, being a protected a marine park. right? We have to preserve the biological character of the area and so on. So there are conservation objectives. And oftentimes, these two objectives may compete.
Right.
Or there might be some tension between, for example, a practical example, right? Now, the advisory suggests that there shouldn't be any parties on the reef, any alcohol drinking, and so on and so on. Right? That's within the protected area, the delineated area, right, that we have management of. But the boats leave from Store Bay, they leave from Pigeon Point, they leave from Gibson's Jetty, which is outside of the protected area. We have no jurisdiction there, right? But then stakeholders within the tourism operator
Go ahead, Barry. Go ahead.
Maybe promoting a particular kind of visit to the reef,
event,
which is in breach of the conservation objectives and so on, right? And so you have that kind of tension. So even at the macro level, there needs to be a discussion as to what do we really intend for this space? How do we intend the kind of tourism that we wish to promote and get into? What is it? Is it the party type or
do we still not know? Do we still not know after all of this time?
I hear that we are into ecotourism and so, but sometimes what the eye see and the ear hear not in line. So this is the kind of harmony
we're looking for.
Yeah, that is the kind of harmony that we think needs to happen, and it has to happen at a macro level. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The island has to know what is the plan, right?
Yes.
And then once we know what that strategy is, then we can go about putting the infrastructure and the institutions in place to make that plan happen. And so I'm appealing to the Executive Council, the Chief Secretary, the Line Secretary with responsibility for tourism, the Line Secretary with the responsibility for marine resources.
Yes.
To have that conversation with whoever the decision makers are, the administrators and whoever technocrats and so on. Have that discussion and let us really make a go at fixing the marine park, that Buccoo Reef Marine Park, once and for all. Well, probably not once and for all, but let's do better than we have done.
That's right.
Do better than we have done in the past, right?
Most definitely, most definitely. And I hear what you're saying here, Barry, having all the stakeholders on board, on the same page, so that we know the direction in which we're heading. And again, this is an appeal to all persons living in Tobago. This is our land. This island belongs to us. We are the ones who've got to protect it. So we see visitors and we see persons doing things, and we need to stop and say, no, you need to pick it up. You need to take authority. This is your land. This is not yours. This is our land. Okay? Yes, it's ours. We need to have that buy-in. But Barry, thank you very much for being on the program with us this morning.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and we're going to see you back again in June. Most
to promote those suite of activities that we plan to engage the public in.
Yeah, definitely. Right? Yes. Thank you again. Thank you again. Viewers, lots more coming up this morning on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. We want to send as well good morning to Selma Lashley, Alicia Devines, Mikkel Lewis, good morning. Marilyn Spence, Joe Field, a pleasure indeed. We've got Josephine Solomon. Your reward is great in heaven. Good morning to you. And good morning to all of you. Let's go to heaven. Trinbago, good morning to you as well. Well, viewers, lots more coming up on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Coming up next, we will be chatting with Sophia Cooper, Special Programs Coordinator attached to the Assembly Legislature. She's going to tell us more about what they've got coming up. And I don't know why my voice changes even as I introduce her. But she's going to chat with us a little bit more on that just after the break. So viewers, share the live, share the live, share the live.